Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for joining today. Thanks for joining from anywhere in the world, like in your cloud PC. I'm joined by an amazing cast today. I'm really excited. I missed last month. Thank you, Colby Hanley, for holding down the fort. I'm just so glad to be back. But without further ado, I do want to get into introductions. We have so many great things that came out the past month, and so let's just do some intros. Sam, start with you, and then Abe, Colby, Donna, go. Who are you? What are you working on?
Great, thanks, Christian. Sam Tulamont. I'm a principal PM manager on the Windows 365 team. My team leads a Windows 365 Frontline, as well as Windows 365 provisioning and configuration experience. So I'm here to talk about Frontline today, and really excited to be joined by all the rest of only a subset of the people who are working on Frontline, but really excited that we've got a few of them here today.
And then Abe.
Hi guys, my name is Abraham. I'm a PM in the Windows 365 team. I've done a few of these in the past, usually centered around resizing, licensing, product flexibility, and so forth. So yeah, I'm excited to talk about all the new things that we're building in the upcoming months around that.
And then Colby, if you want to go next.
Yeah. Hey,
even though folks like know you already.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So I met everybody last month when I covered for Christian, but today I'm joining under the context of Windows 365 Frontline. So I have built out the Windows 365 Frontline end user experiences. And in general, I own our Windows 365 and Azure Virtual Desktop end user portal experiences. So it's so nice to be here.
Hi, everybody. I'm Donna. It's not my first time on the AMA show, but I'm a CAT PM on our Windows 365 team, which means I'm mostly customer facing and focused. But I've also had the pleasure of being on the Frontline team and helping out where I can. So just really stoked that this is now out. We're talking about it. Folks are starting to use it. And seeing customers actually getting really excited about the potential of Frontline. So if you got questions about Frontlines, why we're all here, please ask away.
Okay, and I'm Gokumatsu, Senior Product Manager in Windows 365. I'm working on the Windows 365 Frontline project, mostly focusing on the admin experience. I'm so excited to be here to talk about Frontline today.
Awesome, thanks, folks. So yeah, if you couldn't hear the theme, if you didn't get the announcements when we were posting for this, for the AMA today, Frontline is a huge release that everyone on our team is so proud of. So there's the blog link below, ak.ms/w365 Frontline blog. Go ahead and take a look. We want to answer as many questions as we can on this because we know that it is newer to folks. There are preview sign-up links as well. So definitely take a look, and we're going to definitely take a lot of questions today on that. But I also did want to emphasize, before we dive straight into Frontline, I did want to highlight some other announcements we had, other releases we had this past month. One of them, which Abraham will hopefully get to explain to us more, is basically being able to convert licenses to higher level licenses. And Abraham will get into a bit, and you can explain how this will help our enterprise customers best use their licenses. So we'll get to that later. And then the last really cool feature that we have is in the Windows 365 web client, being able to redirect your location, just as if you're using the Windows desktop clients. So those are some big releases this past month. Those are the W365 What's New, to look further and get more detailed information. But I want to go back to the very the very big thing we're all excited about is Frontline, right? So we have lots of folks on the call. Whoever wants to answer, can you give me like a 30-second minute synopsis? I know that might be hard, but can you give me a quick synopsis of what Frontline is?
I'm happy to take this one, and then I'll probably give the rest of a lot of the questions to the team to give them a chance to also speak about their different areas. So Frontline is a new plan that we've released in the market as a public preview today, and it's targeted to allow customers who have shift and part-time workers to be able to use Windows 365 and get their own cloud PC if they're not needing essentially a cloud PC 24/7, so they can use it for the duration of their shift. So think of it as a way to extend cloud PC to a lot more users in the organization and make it possible to target use cases where in the past it didn't really make sense for a customer to have, for example, say an information worker is using their cloud PC, every day and using it a lot of the time. In Frontline cases, it could be you're using the cloud PC for a couple of hours a day. It could be that you're using the cloud PC. So it makes it more affordable for our customers to be able to start rolling out cloud PCs for the rest of the use cases and the workers in the organization. So today it's a plan and it's a new way to sort of purchase Windows 365, but it's really just the start for us to start catering for a lot of the use cases and the unique requirements that a shift worker or a part-time worker may have that are unique to their roles, whether it's in healthcare or retail or different industries, manufacturing. It's just a start for us to sort of be able to cater to those use cases in the space.
I feel like the question that I always get is, are these the Windows 365 Frontline cloud PCs, are they still like your own cloud PC? Is it still your own personal device, or is it some sort of like shared device?
So I'll follow on because it's related to how I kind of shared a little bit. So I think a core thing is it is your own cloud PC. When you're buying Frontline, or right now in the preview, we have a limited sign up. You are getting each license you get with it 3 cloud PCs. So each user gets their own cloud PC that is theirs to use during their shift or work. And so what we do is essentially, as the user connects, we get the cloud PC to start and power on, and then when they leave, we release the license and allow the user and the cloud PC to power down. So another user can actually access their own cloud PC. So the licenses are shared. However, the cloud PCs are individual.
Okay, perfect. And then Sam, I think one thing you mentioned, and I think I mentioned it earlier, is that we're still taking some signups for the preview. So I think we have the link here. Perfect. Frontline public preview sign up. So yeah, as we talk more today, if this continues to make you really excited, please follow that link. Save it now. Come back to it later. Sign up.
You need InTune to be able to manage Frontline and provision. So anyone who's signing up, just a note that we're excited to have you. Yeah.
Perfect. Another question I have when it comes to Frontline is all the end user experiences the same for kind of existing cloud PC users, or was there any changes to that to accommodate for the shift workers? Colby, I think you worked on that, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, great question. So in general, I will say that we operate with the philosophy, of course, of no matter the addition of the service, whether it's enterprise, business, Frontline, we want to keep, a world-class, very, very high quality end user experience. So the end user experience only differs from that of Windows 365 Enterprise a tiny bit. And that main difference is that since we start the machine and stop the machine when you log on to use it and when you log off when you're done using it, we do just want to make sure that our Frontline end users are saving their work when they're done. We provide a couple of reminders to do so in the UX, just to make sure that they're seeing those reminders to reinforce this behavior. For those who are familiar with Windows 365 Enterprise, you'll know that this differs from that version of our service. So the main thing that we just remind multiple times over and over again is to have those end users save their work and log off. The other thing that I'll mention is just that ending their session and logging off is very important to us here, since we are using that concurrency model, and we have kind of that like shared license at the tenant level model. And so we just need you to log off to make sure that we can then release your license and it can be made available to another person who, you know, has a shift starting 30 minutes after yours, let's say, who then would need to use that license during their shift. We are always building out like new stuff for this end user experience. We built out tons of new stuff to make sure that it was a high quality experience between private and public previews. And we're continuing to do so. So we're adding things like implicit detection so that we can tell when your user is done with their session without any input and things like that. So just hold tight to our public preview customers for even more improvements to the end user experience. But in general, I think those are the big items. If any of my teammates have anything else to add, feel free.
Yeah, I think you mentioned a lot there, Colby. There's a lot to unpack. And before we, like, for you mentioned the concurrency, the just, you know, saving your work before you, you know, log off, and tenant level licenses. So there's definitely a lot more, you know, a lot to unpack here. But I do want to get to a question that we got from Mark, which is very related, which is with regards to the Power Windows 365 Frontline Cloud PCs on and off feature. Will that also be lit up in a Windows 365 custom role?
So is Mark asking whether we'll allow for that start and stop functionality to be made available to admins in InTune?
Yeah, it feels like a two-part statement. I think I guess one, just for our own clarity, is there going to be an admin operation to specifically power on and off a device? And then two, will they be able to do a built-in role for this, or would that just be a custom RBAC role that they can then create this custom role for?
I'll go ahead and let Go answer this question just to give him the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. So the on-off operation is automatically done by our service. So admins do not need to be in the burden of turning on and off individual cloud PCs. But we do understand there may be cases that the admins might want to do that operation. So we do not have that in the public preview right now, but we are building that capability for admins to turn on and off individual cloud PCs if necessary.
Okay,
and if I may just add to that, Christian, really quickly. So these will be unique remote actions to Frontline. And I think maybe part of what the person is asking about the custom role is, can they create RBAC permissions on it? And if that's the question, definitely that's what we plan to do. So similar to any remote actions that we have, you should be able to provide specific permissions to these. And I think one other thing to note on that is, you know, the reason why we wanted to add these, as Go said, in a lot of cases there are situations where even though we're not asking anyone to be in charge of powering on and powering off the machines, we automated all of that process based on the end user behavior. Maybe there's a critical security update, or maybe you really need to power off a machine so that you can boot off a user that is still using the session and you don't want them to. So you can use the power off as a mechanism to do that.
Okay, perfect. And a slight deviation before we come back to all the details. You mentioned that it's going to be its own unique device actions like we do for other for the regular enterprise cloud PCs. So Abraham, this is actually for you and the team. Are we going to support, Abraham, you've been working on Resize. It is an awesome feature. I absolutely love it. Is that Resize functionality going to come into the Frontline cloud PCs?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's definitely something that we have in the roadmap. It's not going to be on day one, but Resize being such a highly requested feature, we want to make sure that it has the same parity as we have for like the enterprise and even in the future, the business offerings. So yes, to answer the question, Resize will come to Flex, to Frontline in the future.
Nice. Yeah, that'd be really cool. Yeah, I know how big it is on the regular enterprise. I can only imagine it with all these shift workers being like, "Oh no, I need something else. I need something bigger. Or I need something changed." So that's really cool.
Correct.
And now I'm gonna take a step back again. Because Sam, you're mentioning there might be cases where you have to do some operations to turn on and off. Mark, if you're, hopefully you're still listening. If you have specific scenarios that you envision for doing the manual on and off operations, I know that we'd like to have that information, confirm our understanding in case there's anything new. But Donna, I'm just wondering, with the customers you've worked with and that you've identified through the previews, are there any other scenarios where you're seeing folks needing to do this on and off management?
I haven't really gotten much feedback on that one. The feedback we've seen has been around license gating, trying to set up actual shifts and maintenance. But absolutely, there's still definitely a value to having that feature there, and maybe something that could be built on top of that. But yeah, I don't really think I have anything specific on needing to manually power off and then power on the frontline cloud PCs.
And for the shifts, is there? I know that we are, part of our audience is the shift workers. Is there any specific shift integration that we do, like with Teams or anything? Do you know that's something that we plan on doing?
I can take that one, Christian, quickly. So this is a question that we get a lot. So today, the way we built the model, it is not actually requiring the admin or the customer in any way to manage a shift schedule. It's completely flexible because it's built on that concurrency model. So you figure out what's the number of concurrent users that you have. Let's say you have a call center of 300 workers, about 100 of them work at the same time. Maybe you buy, in that case, about 100 licenses, or maybe a couple more, just to make sure that you have a little bit of a buffer in the number of licenses. That provisions up to 300 cloud PCs, and it can be any of those workers logging in, so long as the active number of users is not more than the number of licenses that you purchase, essentially. And so that gives full flexibility in terms of schedules. Like, someone can change their schedule as a shift worker. They're working on Monday, now they're working on Thursday. That's okay. No one has to do anything. Just make sure that the total number of licenses is correct. However, some of the things that you're talking about, when I opened up with, hey, this is the start for us, we've built the most flexible model for us to cater to this use case and to the workers that we're catering to. And the goal is to start thinking about it broadly as we go further, from partnering with other teams across Microsoft who are catering for frontline workers, like Teams and others. So it's definitely things that we're thinking about and talking about, but we haven't gotten there just yet.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks for the context and all that. I see we have a question that is related to all this from James. So for the fall in the sun type model with Frontline, will there be an InTune GPO other feature to address idle and disconnect sessions?
There's actually a existing policy under the remote desktop settings that you can configure your idle and timeout. We also have those in the docs as well with examples on how to set that. So yes.
And I think maybe the other question is, and I think Colby, you hinted at this, as part of our service, are we kicking users off, or is it more the admin responsibility to keep things parallelized to limit the concurrency?
Yeah, we as a service will never kick users off. So that's just up to the admin. Like we said before, there's the start and stop functionality. So if the admin needed to do so, they could go in and then manually stop a user's session, and that would be equivalent to them, kicking a user off per se. But we as a service will never do that. So that's totally up to the admin. We're assuming that the correct number of licenses are purchased, and that the admin has done their job and they've enabled their end users. And we give visibility into that concept as well with the Windows 365 Frontline report, the utilization report that we offer in the InTune portal as well. So we just provide, we provide our capabilities and we provide that visibility, but we are not taking actions like booting off users or stopping their sessions.
Good to know. I think that was. So I think that's a lot. The main question regarding the kind of those admin features. We did have another question that comes back to the resize concept. So Abraham, this is for you. Is resizing for Windows 365 Business, is it still not possible? They really wanted to roll this out, but not being able to resize is going to be a deal breaker for us.
Yeah. So as I mentioned before, I think that really one of our goals as a service is to have feature parity across the offerings. And we definitely want to bring Resize to business. I think that at the beginning, it wasn't a highly requested feature for business, but obviously as we've scaled as a service and as more customers come into Windows 365, we get a broader range of feedback, and Resize is definitely being a highly requested feature, which definitely put it in the radar. So it's something that's going to come. Can't talk about specific timelines, but hopefully before the end of the year, we'll see Resize come to the business offering. And I think it's very, very possible.
Nice. Yeah. If for folks listening, watching, there's the ak.ms/w365 feedback link. If you keep upvoting that, then I will keep poking Abraham to do the feature. So it's up to you.
Thanks, Primo.
All right. Okay. I don't know if we have any other questions coming in right now. So I want to come back, Colby. You mentioned this whole concept of I think the tenant license. And I think maybe this comes into how you actually create cloud PCs for users, because when you have enterprise cloud PCs, you give them a license and you put them in a provisioning policy. How do you create frontline cloud PCs if you're not assigning a license directly to a user?
Yeah, I'll let Sam or go into that question.
Yeah, I think I can take that. So yeah, as a principle, like we are trying to make the admin experience as same as possible as Windows 365 Enterprise. So the flow that you will be going through to provision of cloud PC is very similar for Frontline and Enterprises. The big difference here is that the license is tenant-wide, so you do not assign the license to an individual user. Instead, you'll be assigning that to a group of users, and the service will be taking care to provisioning the cloud PC to the users in that group. So instead of assigning to an individual user, we as a service will take care and provision to the right users.
Right, because in the standard enterprise offering, the provisioning policy says at the end, okay, assign this policy to a set of users. So what you're saying is that we also at that point in time, choose the license?
Exactly. So as part of creating that provisioning policy, we have added the function to select the group of user and select the cloud PC type, which is associated with the license. And then that puts the things together and provisioning direct cloud PCs.
Okay, nice. I think that makes sense to me, but also I'm a very biased party. So
yeah, and there are a couple of things I'll add to that, Christian. There's certain flexibility that comes with that model. So when we say like it's a tenant license, you're buying, let's say, 102 vCPUs, they're stored on the tenant, and then you're going directly to provisioning and assigning it to a group of users. The cool part here is this is a very changing workforce. So in this case, you're not trying to do two steps, assign it to the user, go to the provisioning policy and create it. Now what you can actually go do is go directly to the Azure AD group. If a bunch of workers have changed, you remove them from the Azure AD group, and we deprovision their Cloud PC. If you have a couple of users that were added directly, you also add them to the Azure AD group, and then we give them a Cloud PC. So provisioning becomes a lot more sort of direct and turnkey in this example, which really allows a ton of flexibility for this workforce. It also allows you to provide a user more than one Cloud PC, which is a scenario we know a lot of people are interested in, especially when they're looking at workers who are contractors working in a couple of different companies and are working part-time in one company, part-time in another, so they can now have multiple Cloud PCs because we're able to take control of the provisioning process through this tenant licensing.
Right, because you're saying that the Cloud PC is very, very directly coming from the assignment of the provisioning policy. So if they're assigned to multiple provisioning policies, then hey, you can get multiple Cloud PCs. That's really cool. Well, I think going kind of piggybacking off of the flexibility that you mentioned, Sam, we did have a question from Jurg. I apologize if I mispronounced that name. Will it be possible to switch between Frontline and standard license for a user? For example, if the user changes tasks or positions without reprovisioning Cloud PC or creating them a brand new one.
I'll let Go take that one.
Thank you. So at the moment, that is not possible. We do hear that we are starting to hear that question feedback. So we will be looking into that functionality. It might be a part of working with Dave on the resizing per se. So yeah, look forward in the future.
I was gonna say, and what do we say when we hear feedback? ak.ms/w365 feedback. Yay!
Quick cue too for folks who are going to enter feedback. Please put in Frontline in the title. We're filtering based on that. So our team is, especially if you're in the preview, you're testing, you have questions, you have feedback. Our team is looking through that feedback portal as a place to see what you're facing. So putting Frontline in the title helps us catch it and answer it.
That is a very good point. Thank you for calling that out. I'm sure that'll help your team a lot. Okay, so another question for Frontline. How will Frontline play out with partner solutions within Windows 365 and Azure Virtual Desktop? Think along the lines of the Citrix HDX partnership that we announced either earlier this year or late last year.
So happy to take that question quickly. I think we're obviously just in preview. So we have some specific APIs. Colby can speak a little bit about this because she's driven a bunch of work here with some of our partners on it to enable the end user experience specifically. But we do know that we're actively in conversations with partners at this stage to allow them the opportunity to support Frontline from a client point of view. From a management point of view, similar to how we've done things with Windows 365, InTune will be the primary management plane for us for Frontline. But I'll let Colby add to that on the end user side.
Yeah, basically, enabling our partners who are client partners, who offer different types of clients that we don't offer here, or maybe they do it to a specific audience better than we do here at Microsoft for Windows 365 Frontline has been really strategically important to us. So as everybody knows, we have a super rich partner ecosystem here at Microsoft. And so specifically for Frontline, us and our engineering / software development team have created a bunch of graph APIs that actually anybody on this call could go take a look at if you wanted, that we are offering to our partners or to anybody that wants to use them, so that we give the capability to start and stop sessions, to be able to pull the Frontline Cloud PCs so that they can offer them through their own portal, or to make them available via their own clients, if they even maybe don't want to use our end user portal that we provide through Windows 365. So yeah, we are working to completely enable truly every partner who would possibly want to use the service to go ahead and do so, and to support it so that they can cater to those specific audiences. even better than we can here in-house at Microsoft. So yeah, we have that public documentation available, just like we do for the rest of all of our graph APIs. So feel free to go check it out if you want, but stay tuned for some exciting partner announcements coming, later this calendar year.
So yeah, I think that even ties into another question that we got on the chat, which was, what about the tie-ins with third-party solutions that currently work alongside InTune and other Azure solutions? Like one example would be Nerdio. But I think what you both are saying was that for Windows 365 at least, the management plane is going to be InTune. That's
Correct. Yep.
And and then Colby, as you mentioned, we do have these rich partnerships for how users will end up using it. But for the most, basically the management is InTune. So hopefully that answers your question. For the person on the chat, unfortunately don't have the name, but if you have more questions, please let us know. We do have another question in the chat. I'm trying to find a way to give PIM access, so the Privileged Identity Management access, so administrators can install and uninstall apps on Windows 365 VMs. I cannot find a way to do this, and an administrator with full admin access, I cannot find a way to do this. An administrator with full admin access can only uninstall and install apps. Is there a way I can give an administrator PIM access to uninstall install apps? Fortunately, I'm still trying to parse that in my head. I don't know, folks.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious about this scenario. For managing cloud PCs with InTune, you don't need to have administrative access to install applications. It has the whole app delivery model, script delivery model in there. And so I'm kind of a little more curious on the specific scenario. So whoever posted that question, if they can put a little bit of follow-up, a little bit of color to it. Usually we have just the one user logging into the cloud PC. So really trying to understand this scenario. So maybe there is a better way to do that than via PIM using existing InTune.
Well, because also didn't I thought InTune was talking about having the it's almost like the audit flow of if you have to install something, then it's basically putting a justification and then you get to install it. I don't know what that solution name is, but is that related to this at all?
Yeah, that would have been privileged access management, which to my knowledge has not been implemented yet, but it has been spoken about.
Yeah, I do know. On our, at least on the at least Windows 365 Enterprise side, we do have our local the user settings. If it is a cloud PC user, to give them to give a user or a set of users local admin rights. And also that is dynamic. So if, it's going to be hard to coordinate with the user, but if you need to give access for a short amount of time and then revoke it, the user settings apply off restarts when the device boots up. So maybe not as flex, or it's a little bit more strategic or coordinated, but there is an option.
Yeah, I'll say from the InTune perspective. Oh, sorry, Sam. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I used to own role-based access control also for Windows 365. So I've been on the team for a while now. So I will say from the InTune and Windows 365 perspective, if you're trying to do this for an admin so that they can uninstall, install, deploy apps through InTune, you would need to either create a custom role, or there's, I believe, an app manager built-in InTune role. I can't remember the exact name, but it's something like that. You can assign that to the admin that you're wanting to target. What I will say there is that a limitation there is that is going to lack granularity. So if you want that admin to only be able to install and uninstall apps or deploy apps for Windows 365 cloud PCs, that is not currently possible to my knowledge. You can assign them that role, and then they would be able to, through the UX, very literally access the apps UX in InTune, and then they would be able to deploy apps to any machine in your tenant that they have visibility to then. that I don't know if that like gives the right amount of granularity or, access. Feel free to ask a follow-up question if needed. But, of course you can also like assign and then unassign those roles as quickly as you do want. And if for some reason the app like manager or whatever role that is in the InTune portal has too many permissions, you can also go ahead and build an InTune custom role. And then they would also be able to have like just the granular app install permissions.
So Colby, as soon as you mentioned that, I was looking over at Sam. I was like, so Sam, how about scope tags?
Oh God, the hot topic.
Yeah, currently a hot topic. Lots of customers sharing that they would be interested in having scope tags in Windows 365, and it's something we're starting to investigate. So definitely stay tuned for us to share more about this as we go. But if you have feedback on scope tags, add it to W365 feedback because it helps us prioritize. I think, just the last point on the privileged identity question, a lot of us answered this question from different angles. And I think one thing for the person who's asking that would be helpful is just to understand what specifically are you looking for in privileged identity management that you're not able to do within the roles and access permissions that we have in InTune that is separate from privileged identity management in AAD. So if you want to ask a follow-up question or share, or maybe enter something in the feedback, that would help us point you in the right direction if what we shared is not helpful enough.
Yeah, it's just as a general comment, it's so interesting how we all have our own, background expertise, and we're like, well, you could do this, you could do that, or that one. So that's really cool. I love how well balanced our team is. It's great. Let's see. Another question from the chat from Don. I need to justify moving some of my cloud PCs to Azure regions closer to the users. How do I create a report listing the computer, round trip time, and sign-in location? I was trying to pull in from the Graph API, but it exports the data into a JSON file with a schema, and I can't pull this JSON file into Excel. Any tips?
Yeah, I can probably help with that one vaguely, but I'll try. So you do have the round trip time report under the performance tab, or is it resource perf? We've been moving some things around, but the report does exist, and you do get round trip time. I think that the question is related of how can you create your own personalized report though with the data. That'll be something that I can probably follow up on because I'm not the PM owning that feature. It seems that you can only get the JSON file. That to me sounds a little bit weird because I would also expect that you can just click export, which we do have, and get the data in Excel at the least. So definitely an interesting one to follow up on. And if not, bring the feedback back to the PM that if it's just in JSON format, it's not super usable for folks that want to create their own reports. So maybe like something to look into, see if we can export it into CVS file. So, yeah.
Yeah, and if I may add to that, Abe, I think the person who asked this question is looking into the Graph API as a way to export the data, which is probably why they're seeing a JSON file. So it may be worth going into the UI specifically to the report that Abe is mentioning and clicking export there. Because there is an export in all of our reports typically that you can do. You may still need to merge the data since it seems like you're looking for different pieces of data together, but that might be helpful for you beyond the Graph API in terms of the data formatting.
Yeah, and I do know that for the cloud PCs, if you use the Get Cloud PC API, it has some of the region info or the geographies as we introduce that. So it sounds like you'll have to just marry and join the data of whatever the remoting connection gives you for RTT and device name, and then probably you should be able to join that with just Cloud PC data to give you the Azure region. But from my knowledge, again, we'll have to go back to our PM team for the exact details. But I think the remoting connection is just an aggregate number. So we don't have, I don't believe we have a per connection basis. So you probably have to be working off aggregates. But we can go back to our team and get some more info there. If this wasn't already on our tech community forum, Don, I would love for you to put it there. That way we can continue the conversation back and forth, and we'll make sure we, hopefully get you to the answers that you need. So if you're not already asking this on tech community, please go over. I think we have a link. I think it's the, I'll see if we can find the link to post it here. But our tech community channel. Perfect. There it is. Community/Windows 365. Another question, also based off of the location, is I'm guessing Frontline would be tied to a single region. Is that right? Thinking performance for call center shifts that roll over to another region.
I can take that one because I have an anecdote that is fun to share with people from the early designs of Frontline. So it is not tied to a specific region. It's similar to your experience today, where we allow you to actually provision the cloud PCs based on the regions. You can choose either the automatic choice in the provisioning policy, or you can choose specific regions. We always recommend automatic because it helps us actually make sure that the cloud PC is closest to the user. But because each user gets their own cloud PC, we still can actually have cloud PCs in different regions. And the reason why I was excited about this question is because early on when we were designing this, one of the things that we looked into is any sharing that we would do here, potentially on the cloud PC itself, and the potential for latency. So having your own cloud PC for the users is a way for us to make sure that we still have that flexibility and high performance for the cloud PC. And the license is the one that is shared, not the cloud PC. So as a reminder there, and that's what allows us to kind of continue with the same promises that we have for Windows 365 Enterprise.
Perfect. Yeah, I think just reiterating that, Sam, because everyone gets their own cloud PC, it does a lot of flexibility. So I'm really glad that we, I think if you look at our Windows 365, like that is the promise. And so I'm really glad that this Frontline is delivering on that promise as well. A question in the chat is there anything you can share about application attaching or containers, like how MSIX works? So I have thoughts on this, but if anyone else wants to join in, please do. So I know that the MSIX app attach, just the MSIX application, file format. I know that we've been talking about this back in Azure Virtual Desktop days, even when I was back on the team, focusing on only Azure Virtual Desktop. But we leverage like Sam said, we leverage InTune for all our management. For Windows 365, these are individual users' cloud PCs. So any apps that you need to install, you can do so through the InTune apps. You can publish your own apps or through Store for Business. And what's awesome is that if you have an MSIX format, that's great. Upload it as an app to InTune, and then deliver it as a required or optional app. So I guess maybe for the original poster of the question, I would personally love to understand if there's a specific reason that you're looking for the app attaching containers. If it's to converge your app management, I can see how that makes sense if you have both Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365. But it feels like from our knowledge, with what InTune has, it would again, for us, it seems unnecessary to create another way to deliver packages from what InTune already offers, if that makes sense. So that was my thoughts on that one. I remember I was asked a lot about that, and also just very related. I remember way back when we started designing Windows 365, there were so many questions about FS Logics. And I was like, but it's your own cloud PC, and you have OneDrive. What else do you need? But again, if folks have some other reasons, I would love to hear it. I'm just very married to the fact that it's your own device. And whatever you do on your local device, you do on your cloud PC, and it's great. So, let's see. One question. Any overall best practices for organizations that are using or exploring using a Windows 365 BYOD model with their FTE staff?
So I'll go ahead and take a stab at this one. If you're just starting out on your journey into Windows 365, of which if you are, congratulations, that's definitely a good call. You really want to start off with a good proof of concept, just like anything. I highly recommend that you start off with a Microsoft hosted and an Azure AD join cloud PC configuration, because it's hands down the easiest way to deploy, and it'll get you something that you can start experimenting with and playing around with. From there, end user testing, user acceptance testing, get allies, get friends of IT, get them into a cloud PC, get their feedback, listen to your users, and then take that back in. From there, then it's trying to determine what that experience is going to look like. In the case of a BYOD, this scenario may not make sense, but plenty of customers try to mirror their physical deployments to their cloud PCs, so it doesn't, so it looks the same to their end users. You want to look at conditional access, the various security mechanisms that we have in play. If you're going to, as an example, block clipboard redirection. Some organizations absolutely don't want to be able to move data back and forth. Some don't care, so look into those options as well. You can always reach out to folks on the team by social media. Some of us are very active there. We have feedback. The feedback portal is something you see is missing. Please go ahead and upload that there. So hopefully that gives you a good one. Although I guess that's a good place to start. If anybody else has any options, please feel free.
So working a little bit of the security stack for a little bit. I think Don, just to highlight what you said, easy deployment, the Azure AD join, Microsoft Hosted Network. And then I think the main difference, the kind of extra consideration you should add when doing these cloud PCs versus physical devices, I think you pointed it out. It was just the redirections, yes or no, because when you're on a physical device, you're just working on it. You don't have these redirections. You don't have clipboard. Like, that's the main one. And then just conditional access, just to make sure, because you're getting, you're going to log into the cloud PC, and that's basically like any other Azure AD like conditional access app. So I'd say those are the two main considerations just to make sure you look at. Whereas everything else, like you said, like if you're deploying policies, just deploy the same policies, whether it's the apps or the other security, but just make sure you add on those two. At least for me, those are the top two that I could think of to additionally look at. Ooh, this one looks interesting. When can Windows insiders expect to try the Windows 365 boot and switch features, as I've seen mentions and references to it in latest builds, and I'm excited to try it and provide feedback. Does anyone want to take a stab? Kind of from what I've seen, I mean, just when we have news, we'll officially share it. And you'll have a great panel like today talking about it all and talking to the feature owners. So I would just say, just stay tuned. I'm glad you're excited. I know we all think the concepts are really cool, and that it just will make the Windows experience super awesome. So keep up the excitement. And you'll definitely see the folks here when we can have more to talk about. And then also along with that, when we do the release, check out the Windows 365 blog as well. So fortunately, nothing to share today. Ooh, wow, we've gotten through a lot of questions and only 10 minutes left. That's so sad. Let me go see if there's any other questions here. So I think Sam or Colby, I think you might have mentioned it. Oh, actually, no, we have a question here. Okay. A question. What if I have so for the Frontline cloud PCs, what if I have a critical security update and the cloud PC is powered off?
And I can take that. So this is one of the typical questions we receive from customers when we kind of share this concept of powering on and powering off Frontline cloud PCs. It's obvious that if the cloud PC is off, that will not receive the Windows update, security updates that's needed. So we have built in some orchestration to our service, together with the Windows update function that we have in the OS. So by setting recommended settings for the Windows update policies, we will be able to coordinate the Windows update to happen while the user is using their cloud PC, although not rebooting, so they don't get interrupted. And after the user signs off from the cloud PC, we will be able to check whether there is a pending reboot to complete the update. Before shutting down the cloud PC completely, we will be doing the reboot, completing the Windows update to happen, and then we can ensure the Windows update is there and secure, so the user can continue to use the cloud PC the next day in a secure state. So the service will have the orchestration to ensure the update will happen. And in the future, like in a case where there is a user that is like on a leave for a while, we are looking into solutions to boot the cloud PC that has not been booted for a while and put the security update there. So that's a future solution, but definitely something we are aware that we need to build on.
Yeah, that's really cool. So basically, as long as if the cloud PC is already online, we'll just intelligently, try to apply the update so we're not force the user, and then maybe eventually we recognize that there's an update, a patch, then we can try to be super smart about it. That's really cool.
Yeah, this is a feature I'm super excited about, especially the idea that we've done a lot of research to figure out that, hey, what's the most disruptive thing that could happen with the updates process, given that we're powering off and powering on. And what we found is it is the reboot that people worry about the most, reboot happening at the beginning of the shift. And so this really helps a ton in making sure that the reboot is optimized into a time that the user is not starting their shift or on their work. So super exciting feature.
Yeah, that's gonna be really, really cool. So Abraham, I don't think I actually got back to you on this one, so I need to poke you a bit more on this. Way back when we started this, the AMA today, I mentioned the new feature of converting Windows 365 licenses to higher level licenses. For ordinary people like me, can you please tell me what that means?
Yeah, for sure. So I think way back since we GA the service, one of the biggest pieces of feedback that we have been hearing from customers, and it definitely became bigger and bigger as we onboarded more customers into the service, is that they really only want to pay for what they're using. They only want to pay for the licenses that they're consuming. And although with Resize today, like say that you're in a 2-core cloud PC, you can bump someone up to a 4-core, 8-core. You can do that today. You still need to have license ownership of that base license. So like obviously you need to have licenses in inventory so that you can resize users to a higher SKU cloud PC, but you still need to pay for that lower base license. Let's call it that 2-core license. And customers that have enterprise agreements today can only wait for their annual review time for them to cease to own that 2-core license. And one thing that exists today, that existed for services like M365, is the notion of a step-up license or step-up motion. And that's basically a feature that allows users of M365 to convert their licenses set from an E3 to an E5 and cease to pay for that E3 and only pay for that E5. And this will work even for customers that have those annual enterprise agreements. So we actually brought that today. It's available today also for Windows 365. So if you're a Windows 365 customer that has an enterprise agreement, now you can actually work with your sales specialist or your account team to tell them that in the future, you're envisioning that you might resize 2-core end users, let's say 1,000 of them, to 4-core. So now you can convert those licenses. You can convert the 2-core licenses to 4-core, and you can actually perform a resize on those 2-core users to migrate them to 4-core. How can you do that resize? Is actually a great question for this one, a good lead up for this one, because we're actually going to be enabling what's called a bulk resize in the future. It's a feature that's currently in private preview. We're hoping to go public preview within the next month or so. So that'll be a very streamlined and easy way to migrate your users from license A to license B. And that's actually going to be a huge feature to allow our customers to get the full value of step-up licenses. Because obviously, once you convert those licenses, you could also provision 4-core cloud PCs with them if you wanted to, but only if you want to start from scratch. If you don't want to start from scratch, that's sort of the piece that ties into this, which is the bulk resizing feature. So look forward to that one. That's coming very, very soon, and it's going to be a very awesome feature.
Yeah, that bulk resize when it comes out is gonna be awesome. The step up licensing is great. All I'm hearing is that we're trying to make sure that you're not double paying and that you're using the service for its fullest, which is awesome.
Yeah, we're trying to lower the total cost of ownership as much as we can. And we're also going to be doing some stuff with that for customers that have Microsoft Cloud agreements. So maybe we can talk about that in a future AMA, but we're adding flexibility all across the board. So, yep.
That's awesome. Sweet. Yeah, we'll definitely have to talk about that on a future one, and all the reports and how we're trying to bring more awareness to admins and make sure that they are using the Cloud PC licenses and their Cloud PCs to the fullest. So I'm sure we'll have another chance to discuss that. But thank you everyone for joining today. Again, so many questions on Frontline. Thank you so much. And also the questions on resize and step up. So again, thanks for joining. The links below just continues conversations. Like Sam mentioned, if you have feedback specifically for Frontline, make sure to add that little tag of Frontline. That way it makes it easy for the team to filter. But we really appreciate your time, and we'll catch you next month for our AMA. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.